up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash, here to recap Week 3 of the NFL season, or at least what has happened so far. Of course, we still have the Monday night games. There's 2 of them this week. We will recap those on Wednesday's record, Thursday's episode. But yeah, we've got some football to talk about. The Panthers won their first game of the NFL season. Huzzah! Aaron Rodgers looks like he is absolutely back. The Lions were able to beat the Cardinals. The Ravens won a close game where they almost lost it in the fourth quarter. A lot of stuff to talk about. But before we get into it, Matt, Theo, how are you doing on this beautiful Sunday night?
Well, I'm good.
I know you are, Matt, and I'm happy for you.
I'm in a good mood. This one means something to me. Like, no joke. I think maybe every single NFL or sports show was trying to get a banger off on the Panthers over this last week. All coming out with the exact same take of like, well, no one could be successful there. And like, don't get me wrong, Bryce, it was in a bad situation, but to watch Dalton go out there and just tear it up, like he was awesome. And he wasn't even just like, you know, being aggressive and like being a replacement level quarterback and like just reading the defense and dealing with pressure, dude. He had a couple of throws that were really, really good. There were a couple times where he hit one like fading away in the corner of the end zone. I was like, buddy, you're top 10. I hate to say it. Honestly, dude, you're goated. So it was awesome to watch that.
Yeah.
And I forget who said it, but somebody on their show was like, dude, I don't even think Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen could be like okay in Carolina. It's like, all right, let's calm down.
Let's cool it.
Third place in total passing EPA this week for old Andy Dalton and the Carolina Panthers. A career high for Deontay Johnson in yardage.
True.
Chuba Hubbard went for 170 today.
Jesus, man.
He's not been bad. Offensive line played well. Like, I think their offense is actually going to be okay for the rest of the year. I think it'll be solid.
With Bryce, maybe they were selling on purpose.
There was somebody selling, but it wasn't on purpose.
Also,
no,
Theo,
I mean,
you're a little quiet. If you could turn up a bit, but
I think the Panthers are still probably going to be pretty rough for the rest of the year. Their defense still sucks. They did a good job today. They got a little bit more pressure than usual, and the Raiders were kind of the Raiders. They weren't able to run the ball when I think most teams that have a pulse in the run game probably should be able to still. But when we were a team that was at, you know, maybe threatened to go 0-17, getting the win is good. And if you're a Panthers fan and you're worried about like, oh, well, what if we win too many games to get like a super high pick? I promise you, in this class, it stinks a little bit, but I'd rather be good enough to play myself out of a great pick than so bad that I get a great pick and then need to try to like make up ground with that pick. You know what I mean?
You should be feeling good about the win if you're a Panthers fan, not worrying about that. I mean, the Raiders are plenty bad. That doesn't mean that you're not gonna.
I'm worried about winning too many games. I don't
think. You know, I'm a little bit disappointed myself, though. You know, the Packers got to win, so I'm happy with that. But I think Joe Alt's Rookie of the Year campaign is over. He allowed a sack to T.J. Watt and got hurt in the. No. It's all it takes to derail the offensive lineman's case. It's never happened before. He would have needed to basically add a shutout, I think, all year. So I think
honestly,
it's over for us.
Neighbor's just too good anyway.
Could we possibly prove that the sack wasn't Alt's fault?
We're looking into this very closely. We've got our top minds on it, but I don't think that it...
As soon as the All-22 drops, we're on it, man.
I don't think I can say anything, or any of my team can say any of it to get him Rookie of the Year at this point. It's derailed.
We're trying to get that place scrubbed from the NFL Plus All-22 clips. But we'll see. Yeah, I saw that. And then Neighbors is cooking, and like Marv is good. And it's like, dude, if Neighbors goes for 1,200 yards, Joe Alt could have the single greatest tackle season of all time, and he would not win that shit, dude. Like, you needed everyone to be trash.
It'd be better than Joe Thomas, like year one.
Yeah, we needed the Giants passing offense to completely collapse Neighbors' case, and it doesn't look like that's happening. As long as we're talking about Neighbors and the Giants here, they did beat the Browns. My gut feeling from the last episode was correct.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Neighbors is the truth, man. He is so good. We'll wait before we go crazy with hot takes about him, I think, because it's only been 3 weeks. But that guy can do it all. He plays the ball in the air as good as anybody. We saw that in the preseason, and now we've seen it a few times here. Not only going up and getting it versus anybody and playing with strong hands, but his body control when he's coming back down. He's obviously like a nasty route runner. He's super fast and just makes super hard cuts at top speed.
Right.
You know, he's one of those guys where it's like an electric, like instant change of directions rather than maybe somebody who's smooth. It's not a bad thing. It's a stylistic thing, and it's very fun to watch. And then he's just incredibly fast and good after the catch. Like all three phases of being an elite wide receiver, he's got. He could rank incredibly highly. Like his skill set, in 2 years, if people are saying Neighbors is a top 5 receiver, it just wouldn't shock me at all. He's showing everything so early. Even in a situation that's rough, like they're still able to get the ball to him a ton because he's just that good.
Mm-hmm. I was looking forward to watching him against the Browns because going into this game, the Giants had only been charted as having 12-man coverage plays against them the previous 2 weeks. Dan Quinn in Washington have not actually played too much man coverage, unlike last year with the Cowboys. I forget who they played. It was the Vikings. Flores isn't playing any man. So going in against the Browns, I thought that Dable might be a little bit excited to actually get a chance to get these guys to run away from people, and he put them on Emerson the whole game, and it's exactly what happened. They had a guy in Andrew Thomas who's capable of going up against Myles Garrett and actually winning when he's aligned where he usually is over that left tackle. Just a good matchup for the Giants here. And the Browns, I mean, it's a formula that we've seen before with the Giants going into this game. Just thinking about it, like they are kind of this year's Giants. Last year they won 75% of their close games, 6 of 8. They got it done with a historically good defense and a offense that's just bottom tier. It's just tough to bet on that formula year after year. And going up against the Giants offense, which has really not been great over the first 2 weeks, their sack differential was atrocious. I think they took, 7?
8 sacks.
8 sacks?
8 sacks, and that was like 7 in almost the first half, maybe 6. It was
6. It was 6 in the first half.
And they got completely out of the game because of it. And Blaiden, I think you made this point, and as I'm watching him, I 100% agree. Like, it's like Watson hasn't even really like started the play by the time that the pressure's getting there. It's like he's not really doing anything. You never see his head move before the pressure gets to him. And it's not to say that the offensive line like played well and it was all on him, but a guy you're paying, huge money and you traded all these picks for is like never making the extra play. You know what I mean? Or at least not with any type of consistency. And there's never any urgency to at least get the ball out. Like I thought, we'll get into it a little bit later, Atlanta's offensive line let up a lot of pressures against the Chiefs. But how many sacks did Kirk Cousins take? Like actual sacks? Maybe 2? And like for basically no yardage, which is a big deal. Watson's out here taking 50 yards of sacks. It gets to a point where maybe you could say that, and I'd have to go like really look back. It's like, how many options does he have early that maybe we can't see? But it's just incredibly tough for them to be any sort of like ground and pound team that sort of controls the clock like maybe they wanted to last year a little bit more. And Watson just doesn't give them a chance when he drops back because too many drives, like those sacks, they end drives. It's not as bad as an interception, but it's not that much better. Not as much better as maybe you think. So
A sack on second down to make it 3rd and long is basically a turnover.
Especially if you're Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. Especially
No
if you're
disrespect.
Cleveland, because they're not converting 3rd and longs, especially without Njoku. At this point, I'm just, the Browns just break my heart, man. But the real tragedy is, I think there's 3 areas that got exposed. Obviously, Watson, right, which he gets exposed every week. But taking 8 sacks is just abysmal. Like, it can't happen. It's a statistical improbability, and I think the only reason he wouldn't break the most sacks in a season record is because he would get benched. That's the only way he doesn't break it. Or hurt, yes.
How many does he have this year?
He had 6 in week 1, 2 in week 2, 8 now. He's got 16.
16 sacks through 3 weeks. I mean, that's an insane pace. I don't know what the number.
Gnarly. And they play the Raiders next week with Crosby and Wilkins.
He's on pace for 91.
It's some,
and they haven't played Baltimore yet. They haven't played Pittsburgh yet. Like, the pass rushers aren't going to get worse. I don't know, man. It's rough. The offensive line did struggle, though. DeJuan Jones got his lunch money stolen multiple
against
times.
Brian Burns.
By
Nope, that's not
Ojulari
gonna
and
work.
Brian Burns.
That's a
it was
horrible
rough,
matchup
man.
for him.
I mean, and it becomes clear that it's kind of a similar problem that the Ravens have with their right guard Filele. He's just too slow. He's just not quick enough. You got to be able to get back in your sets. Again, this is the thing that made Joe Thomas so great, was like how quickly he was able to get deep in his pass pro. Jones just can't do that. He just can't do that, and he can't get hands on quick enough.
He's in the wrong era. They're calling illegal formation if you try to get the early jump. 2023 era, DeJuan Jones would have.
He's in the wrong era.
I mean, DeJuan Jones has 125 pounds on Burns.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy, and Burns is just too quick for somebody like that.
Too low for somebody like that. Like, his punch just can't. If Burns has any kind of bend and get off, like, what is he gonna do? His best chance is to fall on top of him like a thwomp in Mario or something.
Would that be a penalty?
Probably.
No thwomping. Yeah, it's 10 yards.
I said in my upset pick video before the week started that the Browns had a worse offense than the Giants going into which statistically was true, but people were like, "That's not true. Like, we're not that
No, that's
bad."
true.
It was true.
What are people were saying that's not true? That is definitely true.
It
man.
was true. I know. But they won last week, so it has to be like, oh, we're better than at least.
Bro, they
the
scored
Giants.
18 points. What are we talking about?
Today, they are dead last in the league in success rate after week 3, and they are dead last in drop back success rate. They're about 3% worse than the Carolina
You
Panthers.
take 8 sacks.
Wow, they got over the Panthers. And the Panthers, I mean, if the College Football Playoff Committee was judging them, they'd say, that's a different team now. Those first 2 weeks don't count. We've changed, so.
Committee. They're also last in offensive EPA per play. They're below Tennessee.
Jesus.
And any guesses on who the 30th ranked team is in EPA per play right now?
I'm not looking at it right
Offensive.
now.
We'll put you on a 5-second clock.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
It's the Miami Dolphins.
Wow.
Sorry for another day.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's
that's crazy.
It's bleak over there, man. Not. Here's the thing. I did not catch that game, but from what I saw, it's looking like the poor investment in backup quarterback is costing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not a Sunday game for me. I'll look at what happened.
That's why
It's a Tuesday game.
Because I was
That's
like,
a
I'm just not going to watch this game.
Sorry, Seattle. Sorry, guys. But
It was one of the only locks that hit for any of us. It was Seattle.
It's tough out here, man. It's not easy. Early in the season, the locks are
Not
difficult.
easy. You're trying to feel out the waters a little bit. The other area in Cleveland that got exposed, we talk about how great Malik Neighbors was. Emerson. This is the point that I made last year that Browns fans ridiculed me for. The corner play outside of Denzel Ward is not that good in Cleveland. It is mid at best. Emerson can survive against decent 2s and decent 3s, but when he gets switched onto a 1, a Malik Neighbors, a guy who can route you up, a guy who can win at the catch point, he lost every single time. Every single time. And so they just kept going back to it. They kept force-feeding Malik Neighbors on Emerson every single chance they got. And when eventually Ward was able to get reps on him, it started to die down a little bit. But Emerson just got exposed. He got routed up in the back of the end zone. He got mossed on the sideline. He was in position too, like head turned around, hands up, and he just lost at the catch point. Just brutally. It can't happen. And so that's where I lean on, like, the Browns were kind of seen as having this really good roster. And I think the highs are great. Like, when Nick Chubb comes back, it's going to be perfect. Myles Garrett, obviously amazing. Jim Schwartz, great defensive play caller.
32-1.
The defensive play calling's great. Grant Delpit's had a good year. JOK is a good player, but it has a lot of lows too, and the lows when they come out are devastating for this team.
The offense just isn't good. Deshaun Watson just being horrible kills you, and then the offensive line isn't great. The wide receiving core isn't well built. The defense is well built, I think. Emerson didn't have a good day today, but the defense is still well built.
Yes, the defense is still good.
It's just tough to be as good as you were last year every single year. Like, they're an above-average defense this year, certainly, but they're just not.
Oh, yeah.
They're not.
The defense is still good, but it's not perfect, and I think people make it out that it's perfect. But yeah, the offensive line got crushed today. Watson's horrible, just completely inept. But he might not be the worst quarterback in the league. I don't know.
Oh?
All right, hotties, it's officially the best time of the year. Football is back. We're talking NFL Sundays, college football Saturdays, and the glorious grind of fantasy football. This is where your inner GM shines, setting the perfect lineup, making those last-minute waiver moves, and riding that high or low in the group chat. But while you're fine-tuning your fantasy roster, don't let your personal grooming fall off like an injured star player. Nobody wants to fumble their grooming routine. That's where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra comes in. Your ultimate grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra to taking care of rogue nose and ear hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0. This lineup will have you looking and feeling like an MVP on and off the field. Now, guys, speaking from experience, there's nothing worse than a bad trimming session. Trust me, I've been there, and Manscaped has totally changed the game for me. Their Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is like having a franchise player in your grooming routine. Precise, efficient, and always reliable. Plus, with the Crop Smoother Ball Aftershave and Crop Preserver Anti-Chafing Deodorant, you'll stay fresh and comfortable through every quarter of your day. Join over 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get 20% off plus free shipping with the code STAYHOT at manscaped.com. That's 20% plus free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the code STAYHOT, all one word. Get your grooming game ready for kickoff. What is up, hotties? You know that when it comes to NFL football, Stay Hot has you covered. But who do you turn to when you need to make smart financial decisions? If your answer is our sponsor, NerdWallet, then you're absolutely right. And if it's not, then allow me to change your mind, because not only have they spent thousands of hours researching and reviewing over 1,300 financial products, but they have the tools you need to make smarter financial decisions. Looking for a credit card? Go beyond the basic comparisons. Filter for features that matter to you and read in-depth reviews. Ready to choose a high-yield savings account? Get access to exclusive deals and compare rates, bonuses, and more. House hunting? View today's top mortgage rates for your new home sweet home. So while Stay Hot is your go-to resource for NFL football, make the Nerds your go-to resource for smart financial decisions. Head to nerdwallet.com/learn more. NerdWallet. Finance smarter. Disclaimer, NerdWallet Compare Inc. NMLS 1617539. Well, we're not going to transition to a quarterback who might be the worst in the NFL, but the Vikings did almost have to taste Nick Mullins for the rest of the season, which was, I know, a scary moment for them. But dude, Vikings and Texans. We'll just say this about the Vikings. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's a freak. Obviously, Sam Darnold's been a pleasant surprise offensively. But I think the real flowers have to go to Brian Flores. To hold a Texans offense with as many weapons as they have and what we've deemed as probably a top 5 quarterback in football in C.J. Stroud to 7 points, scoreless in the first half, dude, like absolutely nuts. I mean, you've got to have his name in conversations when talking about the best defensive play callers in football. He is trying to make a statement this year, clearly.
My friend from Minnesota is in town. We were watching that game together, and he said, could Flores win MVP?
Man, I mean, if there's an assistant coordinator, award, and I feel like certainly he's the favorite for it right now. I didn't catch as much of this game, but the final score is certainly shocking. I know the Texans are without Joe Mixon, and he's made a big deal for them, just in terms of like the run game that they really want to establish. But shutting down Houston with a defense that's missing a few guys too is incredible.
Yeah, he flayed him. He flayed him again. We'll have to check the All-22 to see exactly what the plan was, but just really good pass rush, I thought, the whole day. Didn't let Stroud out of the pocket at all, or let him kill him from out of the pocket at all. He was strictly a pocket passer. When he did flush out, he was either, it didn't happen much, and when it did, it ended up really bad for Houston. I thought that was one of the main keys. Houston's offensive line was not locked in. I'll say that. They were committing tons of penalties. I thought even like off the ball a couple times, like everybody's kind of jumping back at just different times. The crowd noise in Minnesota was causing a major issue. And then Flores was just running his stunts and replacement pressures and just they couldn't hang. No one could. Like no one had a good day. And they couldn't run the ball either, really. So, and they weren't trying for a lot of it. It was a lot of self-inflicted wounds for the Texans, but you have to give the Vikings credit. You have to give their crowd credit. You got to give Flores credit.
Right. They had that moment where they got, 4 straight false starts? That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was 3 straight false starts and then an illegal formation.
That's crazy. What was the down and distance on that?
It was 3rd and 4, and they were on the 25-yard line. They ended up punting.
That's crazy. I mean, that's probably one of the all-time, crowd noise got 'em 12th man moments, where it's like this was it points off the board because of the fans.
Oh,
it was
God, that's crazy.
It was unbelievable. Stroud had a really nice pass to Tank Dell that was called back. It was a very brutal performance from the Houston offense as well. Flores has been absolutely unbelievable. His guys just are reading zone coverage perfectly. The pass rush is pretty ferocious so far. Grenard had 3 sacks today. But
I saw Stroud went down 4 times.
I also want to say, Slowick, dude, he's gotta be a little bit better, I feel like. Too many times I'm seeing number 87, Cade Stover, out there in pass protection one-on-one with Grenard. Terrible. I mean, not good at all. The tight ends played a horrible game in general. I don't know, man. They just needed to be more locked in today. And I thought the overall cohesiveness of everything, and they might get a little game plan review this week, because I don't know I can't articulate exactly what went wrong, but it didn't feel right. I'll say that. Slowick, I thought, was one of the guys under the most pressure this year. A popular head coaching candidate, coming from the San Francisco tree, right, leading the Houston offense. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's in prime position to make a name for himself. The results over the last 2 weeks without Mixon haven't been super great. So something to keep an eye on, I feel like.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of reminds me of when Latu got matched up on a tight end again in the Bears game. Mm-hmm. I was like, that should never happen.
They were eighth in 12 personnel snaps this week. I just feel like they should not be in 12 personnel at all this year.
Yeah.
As long as the three are healthy. I just think that there's too much Stover out there. He just shouldn't be out there. I feel like that. I can't articulate it. And let's start there.
I absolutely can. I didn't think that Stover was like a serious NFL guy at OSU. I don't think that he's like. I don't think that he's particularly like technically sound as a blocker, which is crazy. And he's not like a crazy special receiving threat. He's not some sort of guy who's like kind of maybe sneakily like fast and good away at getting away from guys. And when you have like Tank Dell and Diggs and Collins, taking one of those guys off of the field for Stover is just not putting your best 11 out there. And I think, do what you want to do. If you want to get big. But above all, you need to be building around the guys you have, not the guys that you want. Mm-hmm. And right. Good coaches are able to build around the guys that they have and play to their strengths. And if the Texans aren't, it's a problem. And honestly, we saw this last year where the Texans wanted to run, and like they weren't good at it. Mm-hmm. That wasn't their strength. They should have been throwing more with Stroud and the weapons that they had last year. So I think sometimes they try to be a team that they're not, and that hurts them. But again, I didn't see a ton of this game, so I can't speak on this matchup in particular. But I do know Stover, just not a guy I'm crazy high on.
Yeah. And then I thought, Darnold's been balling. That's the other thing I got to say. Just have done a good job this year. I don't have too much else to say.
It's not surprising.
Today, man. There's not a whole lot else to say.
He's on the money. He's been crazy. That throw to Naylor was right on the money. He had a touchdown to Johnny Munt on a spacing concept on the 2-yard line. That was real, as a linebacker, you got to be sick because he broke on it just right, and Darnold put it right on his face mask. He had one kind of dumbass moment today where he kind of scrambled forward and tried to pitch it where I was like, buddy, what are you doing? But outside of that, taking care of the football, he's got the high-end arm and the accuracy has been there. We'll see what the line. I know Will Anderson had a sack, but on the touchdown to Justin Jefferson, the first one, Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill did a really good job on both the ends, Hunter and Will Anderson. So, they got stars on the offensive side of the ball, and Darnold is. And
they're not even healthy.
Yeah.
And they're not even healthy. Hawkinson out, Addison out. There's a lot you can add to this passing game. I think the situation has been good. Yeah, Jefferson was banged up. I think the situation's been good for Darnold. And I think we felt like if Darnold is in a good spot, he's going to be able to have good games off of his talent and his, again, aggressiveness and his decisiveness. But it's not like the super team is out there right now. It's not like everything is perfect. He's been making some good plays too. We'll see how it goes for the rest of the season. I still think there's probably some games coming up where Darnold rolls the dice and it doesn't end up his way, or there's a few more, poor composure plays that come out of the the way that he goes about things. But it's certainly been way better than people expected.
Yeah, I'm not in a position where I feel like I'm comfortable counting out the Vikings in any game, because this is the game where I felt like the Texans pretty clearly were the better team. On paper, and it's if they were to get into any game where they have to get into a shootout and Darnold has to win a game, this would be it. And the defense just came to play. Again, we talk about Flores, that is the secret sauce, and it's made all the difference in their season so far, 3-0.
Another guy I want to shout out before we move on to the next game, Harrison Phillips, their nose tackle. Baller this year. Every game I've watched all their defensive snaps this season, basically. That guy is a consistent difference maker. No matter the front that they play, no matter the pass rush, he can make things happen. Just surfing the line of scrimmage and scraping over the top of everything. He can make a difference on stunts. He's been a monster. He batted a pass that turned into an INT today. Just in every conceivable way outside of dropping back into coverage, I feel like he has been pretty much top-notch this year. Harrison Phillips at the middle of that defense. Grenard will get all the credit. He had 3 sacks today. He's a monster as well. Some guys on the back end. Bynum had a great pick. Speaking of another Slowick problem, I thought I saw a man route versus zone on that pick, that Bynum pick. It was a very rigid dig route when you should just be settling down there. I thought there needed to be a little bit more optionality because Stroud was trying to put it on the back shoulder, protect Nico Collins from running right into the linebacker. And maybe it was Collins' fault. I don't know, but just another thing where offense just looks a little bit messy. It doesn't look like it's fitting to the defense that it was seeing there. So just another thing to keep an eye on that Bynum pick. But.
Well, speaking of defenses playing well today, we should talk about the Broncos because their performance against Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, complete shocker. The way this team has looked so far this year, to hold them to 7 points, and they put up 26. Bo Nix had a rushing touchdown, threw for over 200 yards, no turnovers. Like, not a bad outing. Theo, I know you paid close attention to this game. What were you seeing?
Let's start with Bo Nix. Excuse me.
Sure.
I feel like that he's the big story. Pulled it together this week. Had a nice performance after looking pretty rough these first 2. What it came down to is early. The Bucs were playing man coverage, and the wide receivers won their one-on-ones to the outside. He threw a beautiful ball to Cortland Sutton on the back shoulder, and Sutton just kind of had that little, threw his guy upfield, adjusted, made the catch at the last possible second. That was beautifully executed, and then Reynolds beat Zion McCollum on a go route, and Nix threw a really good ball there as well. Got into the red zone. Nix kept it himself, put it in. And that was the formula that worked all day for them, finding those one-on-ones to the outside where it's just the one guy in coverage, right? Let's not make Nix throw to the middle of the field at all, and he didn't. Yeah. There was not one throw over the middle all day today. Just find those one-on-ones on the outside and pick on Jamel Dean, really. This was the story of this game on the offensive side of the ball, and then they were able to get things going in the run game. Nix had some nice scrambles, including one where he felt the guy behind him, pump faked, and then tucked it and ran and kind of juked the guy out from behind him. That was pretty nice. But I think you're right to lead this with the defense, Blaiden. The story will be Bo Nix and the day that he had, and he was accurate, he was good, he was athletic. But again, like a little bit limited in the sense that it was all to the outside. The defense looked sustainable. The defense looked incredible. They were winning up front.
Saw 7 sacks on Baker Mayfield, a pick, a fumble. I think that was Kate Otten that had the fumble. Just awful.
Baker did not have his best pocket presence day. He had one of the bad ones for him. The pick
he almost had more sacks than Watson. So
the pick that he threw was pretty ugly. It was a little high-low, and Mike Evans was pretty much open if he put it out towards the sideline. But Baker was feeling pressure and was just throwing from his tiptoes is what it comes down to. Didn't get all of his cleats in the ground and just kind of threw it from a bad base. And it was way behind where Evans was. And that one got picked by the safety. That was pretty brutal. But overall, Zach Allen was pretty much unblockable all day. Nick Benito had a really good win around the end of Tristan Wirfs, which is obviously a pretty rare win to get. Highest paid offensive lineman in the league these days. So, yeah, it was a really good game from the front. Really good game from the defensive secondary as well. There was a beautiful Moss, the white corner that they've got, play on a third down where he avoided all the pick plays and went over the top of it and then came back down. And Riley Moss got a big PBU on third down. McMillan showed out. Didn't really see Surtain get picked on much at all. It was pretty great performance.
Wow. So they're just,
I don't have anything to add.
Do you think they're just going to be nice like that going forward, or?
I think it's somewhat a Baker Mayfield thing. I just think that his pocket presence is still the big weakness. Like, why isn't Baker a top quarterback in the league when his stats the past 18 games might say that he is, or 19 games might say that he is? I still think it's that pocket presence. I think that he's sold a little bit there. I think that but I certainly think that the Broncos defense is starting to come together. So I don't know if it'll be this good every week, but the defense hasn't been the problem there so far, and I don't think they're.
Yeah.
If the offense can get its shit together every game, then they could be cooking.
You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're really a heat seeker, try spicy ghost pepper. Only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. I dare ya. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's gotta be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's locations. I do want to talk about Colts Bears. This was a game I was really hoping I could go to, but it just didn't work out. To see Anthony Richardson and Caleb Williams play on the same field would have been sick. Two guys that are great at avoiding sacks, but sometimes the outcome of what happens after can be a little bit sporadic.
Yep.
I'll start with this. Caleb Williams is not the problem in Chicago at all. There are some moments where when they have options at his disposal, like, he looks good. Like, I've seen him plenty of times be plenty accurate, evade pressure, like, do all the things that we bill him to do as a first overall pick quarterback. They need more easy button stuff in this offense, though. I feel like they're leaning on him too much to just, like, make a big play. Because...
Is it because of I think it's because of the rushing offense. I mean, I didn't catch this one.
Right.
But I saw Roshan Johnson led the Bears in rushing yards today. He had 8 carries, 30 yards.
Yeah. No, it's not even that. I mean, I won't say that I will say they can't run the ball, but they don't. They also just don't run the ball. And so their only sort of like easy offense is like screens and checkdowns to Swift, who is also bad. I mean, they had multiple plays where they want to go to Swift because, he's the back that they brought in, and they just can't. I mean, he's just not a viable option for them. He was their leading carry guy this game. 1.5 yards per attempt, man. 13 carries, 20 yards. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. And so that allows, especially against a defensive line that has Leatu Latu, you can just tee off every play. It just makes Caleb's job harder when they actually do want to pass the ball, that they don't have any like real easy options because they know you can't run the ball, and they know that, in short yardage situations, you're more likely to throw like a quick out, a drag, a screen. So that makes their offensive situation very difficult. I also just think the coaching is just atrocious. It's completely incompetent. And I think when that gets fixed, that things will get better in Chicago, but that's got to change.
Swift has, by the way, this year, he has 37 rushes for 68 yards coming out.
That's insane, man.
1.8 yards per rush. He also has a long of 20, which means outside of that play, it has been 36 rushes for 48 yards outside of that.
It's nasty stuff, man. I mean, and here's the thing. The offensive line, the interior offensive line in particular, is like among the worst in the NFL, and Swift is like a a subpar back, and that combination has come together to make their run game like worthless. Like it's pointless to run. It really is. Like if every Swift carry should be a throw or at least go to somebody else. I don't think that anybody is going to be particularly efficient, but at least 8 carries for 30 yards is borderline sustainable. Like okay, getting up to 4 yards a carry. That's actually not so bad. Right. So I wonder how much longer. I know they signed Swift to one of those 3-year, $21 million deals that like every single running back in free agency got this year. But I wonder how long it is before they just say we can't keep giving carries to somebody who cannot generate positive plays or can't make the best out of a bad situation even. I didn't see a lot of this game, but from what I did see, Caleb obviously is still working through a lot of stuff. There's still bad plays and bad decisions. I think it's just going to come down to his deep ball needs to be more accurate for him. Not everything is going to be perfect this year. We thought his situation was better than it actually is, admittedly. And right now, like what they're doing is below expectation. But for Caleb specifically, the accuracy and touch on the deep ball can and should be better. That was one of the big reasons why they drafted him at number 1 overall. And it's early, and we'll see how it continues to improve. And there's an adjustment to game speed, especially when you're in a situation where you got a lot of guys getting at you pretty fast. But that's got to be better. As far as the other side goes, I saw some of these Richardson throws. The accuracy is bad. It's been too bad. His arm is huge, and he misses big a lot. And until that improves, it's just going to be really tough for the Colts to be a consistent offense.
Yeah. The Colts' story on offense is the same as it was week 1. Richardson can hit big throws to Alec Pierce, and he can't do anything else. He had one completion to Alec Pierce for 44 yards, another to Granson for 40 yards. That's all they have in their offense right now. Taylor did go 23 carries, 110 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So the run game was getting active for them a little bit, and that was a big reason why they were able to win this game. That combined with the pass rush on the other side. Luckily, the Bears can't run the ball because otherwise they would have lost this game. Because that is still the big issue with the Colts is that their run defense has been bad. But, yeah, Latu looks great. There was one play where Latu got lined up on a tight end. I mentioned it earlier. And it was just a complete disaster immediately because, obviously, the guy with the best hands, like in a draft in a long time, should not be matched up against a tight end, any tight end, and he won immediately, got around the edge, and sacked Caleb Williams there. So that nice. What?
It was just nice for him to get a matchup against a team that can't just run it on the Colts every single play and win.
Well, and this is the thing, like this was great for the Colts to kind of showcase their pass rushing prowess a little bit because so many teams have just been like, oh, your linebackers can't shoot gaps, so we're just going to run it down your throat every play. And now they were able to face a team that couldn't do that, and they really got after it. 4 sacks on Caleb Williams, which Caleb Williams does take some like really, really rough sacks sometimes. Some are his fault, some are not his fault, But yeah, that sack by Latu was really great. But I think that's it. The offensive story for the Colts just doesn't change until Richardson gets more consistent with the accuracy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't watch much of this one. Just when it flipped to red zone or something like that, and it seemed like every time it did, there was a pick or almost a pick from one of the
I posted a video.
That's all I saw from this game.
Downloaded a compilation of every Jameis Winston interception, and I just cut to every point, like from his 30 interception season, and I just cut up like all the times we're like, and it's intercepted, and I posted a video with like that as the audio. And I was like, yeah, this is what it was like watching the Colts game. Because it was rough. It was a tough watch. I'm not gonna lie.
Let's bring up something else real quick then. Blaiden,
yeah.
What was your tweet about the Patriots not even coming close against the Jets? you framed that as me and Theo missed out on an opportunity to make you pick it as your stay hot lock.
Oh, no, yeah. I was like, no, because I said on the episode, I was like, well, if one of you had picked the Jets as a lock, I would have challenged with the Patriots. I wasn't going to pick the Patriots, but if someone had picked the Jets, I would have challenged.
What a fool me and Theo were.
Yeah, the Patriots got spanked, man. Rodgers had his best game in probably, 4 years?
His best since, I don't think he had a better one in 2022, but he definitely did. 2021 he won MVP.
Oh, yeah, so 3 years.
Yeah.
Best game in 3 years.
Yeah, man, he was pretty great. And the thing that stood out the most to me about him in this game, he was getting it done late in the down. Like, the ball would snap, and these first 2 weeks, the rhythm was there with him. But as the play went on, he didn't seem to have the quickness. He didn't seem to have the make people miss ability. This week, he was the best quarterback from outside the pocket of the whole week. He had over 11 yards per attempt outside the pocket, and he threw 9 of them, which is a lot for him. Yeah, he looked super mobile. Not only was all the in rhythm stuff there for him, but the key, I thought, late in the down.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, he was making more creative plays than he was before, and that's what we wanted to see out of him. I think with him and with Cousins to a lesser extent, we've seen them get a little bit more comfortable off of this Achilles injury as the games have gone on. Because game one, both of them looked pretty rough. Now things are starting to really come together. I still think there's some things that they could work on. Like, I think that he maybe had a decent game because the touchdown catch was awesome for Wilson, but it feels like his and Rodgers' timing could be better, and I think that's something that will come with time. But when you have a receiver like that, if you can really get in rhythm with them, it's just going to make defenses have to focus so laser in on them. And for an offense that maybe is questionable with some of its weapons, they were good today. Or on Thursday, Conklin, Lazard had a play. But for an offense that really has Wilson as their major weapons and a lot of, other complementary pieces that aren't quite as strong, you really need that connection to be super good going forward.
Yeah, Lazard's had a pretty good season so far, I would say. But I do wonder if the way Garrett Wilson runs routes is
I think that's part of it
to process.
I think that maybe can be part of it for sure, but I think as the season goes on, it's only going to get better because Garrett Wilson's a winner. And you saw it's not like they don't make good plays. Like, Rodgers knows if he gets it to Wilson, like, good things are going to happen. There's plenty of times where he's like, Wilson 1-on-1, I'm just taking that because he's so good at playing the ball in the air. And that touchdown that they had was a ridiculous, like, tiny window, only where my guy can get it. Wilson just gets himself up, and like, they're gonna figure it out. I'm not worried about it. But I'd be feeling pretty good if I was a Jets fan. I'd be like, okay, that's the ceiling. That's what we should be able to do.
And
with Braylon. Yeah, and with Braylon Allen looking really, really strong, a guy who we kind of didn't love that much, or at least I didn't love that much coming out of the draft. He has looked like a total beast. He's looked incredibly strong. It's just sort of like a super experienced guy. And we've seen that strength in college, but sometimes we thought, he leaned on it a little bit too much. Here he seems to have found a better balance, I guess.
Yeah, I thought they looked like the perfect team to beat the too high coverage. That was the day that it was all trending on Twitter because of what Mel Kiper said. It should be banned. It's too effective. I think, he wasn't, I don't think he was totally serious when he said that, but just obviously Twitter was going crazy with it. And then you watch the Jets and you watch Rodgers be able to hold, zone coverage with his eyes and then exploit something somewhere else. The pass protection was holding up long enough for him to do all that. He was accurate. He was doing all the things you need to do to thread it in those tighter windows down the field. And then they have a running back duo that looks like it could be the best in the league in Breece Hall and then the changeup in Braylon Allen. They were smacking that guy in the backfield like as hard as they could. He'd just slide right off of it. So to have a quarterback like that, an offensive line that's kind of built to pass protect with the, Tyron Smith out there and all the investments that they've made, and a 1-2 punch at running back that can just really punish you going straight downhill. If you want to put a roof on everything and you want to do that, like, this is a team that can beat that pretty easily, it seemed like last Sunday. And it was, I think it's fair to say, the best Jets quarterback performance of the 2000s, guys. I think it was. I talked about this on Your Football Opinion, if everybody wants to check that out. But the games I found that were better from an EPA standpoint, there were a few. One was Geno Smith in Week 18 in 2014. He had a monster game, but it was the last game that he would ever play for the Jets from beginning to end. He saw action in other games, but that was the last game he'd ever see from beginning to end. There was a Josh McCown game that was maybe a little bit better statistically, where they beat the Chiefs with Alex Smith, but the next week he had 46 yards, and it was, looked terrible, and he's Josh McCown, right? That's not going to last. Another one, Mike White a few years ago, maybe in a box score it was better, but these were all November, December games, guys that are on their last legs with the franchise or spot starters. To have an actual starter look this good in a game, it hasn't happened for the Jets. It has never happened for the Jets as long as I've been alive. Because Rodgers is number 4. This performance against the Patriots was number 4. There was no Sanchez up there when they were kind of contending in the Rex Ryan era. There was no, what was it, Delhomme that was there? I didn't see much of that. So for an actual franchise quarterback to put up this kind of numbers, maybe it's not the single greatest quarterback performance. Maybe one of those other ones is. But it's definitely the most encouraging night of quarterbacking in recent Jets history.
That's a good way to put it.
Since Super Bowl III.
Super Bowl III.
Hey, I watched Super Bowl III. I did a breakdown on Super Bowl III this offseason. Joe Namath was hooping in that game. Aaron Rodgers' performance.
Yeah. Wasn't that the game where Namath said, like, oh, yeah, we're going to win? Yeah. He was like, guarantee.
Namath definitely had a better performance in Super Bowl III than Rodgers did on Thursday night.
Did Namath have more aura than Rodgers?
He did have even more aura, I'd say. It's tough, but to guarantee. And the AFC had never won the Super Bowl before, so the Colts were major favorites. And then they kept basically doing like motion before the snap, or like changing their look before the snap, and then like the Colts defense like totally folded and Namath was throwing dimes.
Goated.
It wasn't motion, but it was some sort of shift.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I want to talk a little bit about Eagles Saints.
I didn't watch much of this one, so I'm curious as to what your takeaways were.
This one was awesome because it was sort of a classic like Eagles blunder fest, where they were moving the ball well, but then Hurts would throw like an interception in the end zone, or he had another play where he didn't sense pressure, and of course like the as he's like rolling out to the left, and then of course the end who's after him like doesn't just hit him but hits exactly the ball which he's carrying in one hand, and it's a fumble. And then Sirianni had another masterclass. I don't know if you guys saw this.
Mm-mm.
Okay, 15 seconds to go. They're in field goal range, probably around the 25-ish, so it's like definitely field goal range, but they're also pretty far out. This is in the end of the first half, right? 4th and 1, they have one timeout, and they decide to go for it. Because I guess hypothetically, if you pick it up, you can call a timeout and take one shot to the end zone. And then if you don't get it, you can still kick the field goal. Probably not good optics, because it's really like you're risking it for what? Like a super long shot at a touchdown? You probably just take the 3 that you can already have. But all right, fair enough. The tush push is so reliable that you're just going to run it all of the time. And then they like fake the tush push. And they they run it like a little bit outside and they don't get it.
Fake the
They they lined up like that, and then they don't actually tush push it. They don't get it, and that cost them 3 points. And the thing is that like the analytics were super against, of course, going for it there. Like you should have easily kicked the field goal. And this was in a game where the score was
against going for it.
Wait.
On 4th and 1.
Oh, it was fourth. Okay, it was 4th and 1. I was thinking it was 3rd and 1. I was like, how did they not still get the field goal? I thought they had a timeout. Okay.
They didn't get the field goal. And this was a game that was 3-0. It was like a low scoring like slugfest, and they just passed up the 3 points.
That's so.
In spite of all this, they end up winning the game, and it's for a couple of reasons. Number one, they just decided to. Nick Sirianni actually is the GOAT, and he made a 4th down decision so good later in the game that it changed everything, and the NFL will never be the same. No, they lined up real big against the Saints. I mean, they brought out like 5 defensive linemen, and were just super aggressive, like getting big guys out there to set the edge. And it really stymied the Saints' run game. And then Derek Carr, unfortunately, was not able to win enough to spread the Eagles back out, and it really crushed the Saints offense for a lot of this game. There were a few good plays, like Olave really won on a couple of big 3rd downs, and they were able to pick those up. But the deep shots to Shaheed weren't hitting. There was one where he won badly down the sideline, and it was just underthrown. And there was another one where it was a 50-50 ball, and Shaheed couldn't come up with it. Shaheed is a good player. He's a good number 2. But certainly his weakness is that like he cannot go up and contest the ball, really. If it's one-on-one like that, at least in this game, and kind of how I felt about him in previous games, but I guess I haven't been like really like locking in and seeing like how he does in those situations. But it seems like if he's open and like he can track the ball and get it, but if somebody's able to go up there and contest it, like he can't go up and grab it.
Yeah.
Which isn't a huge problem if some of these had been a little bit more on target, particularly the first one. Like that one was not as much on Shaheed, but it's something that I think certain higher level players could come down with, and Shaheed failed to. And when you have, a guy who maybe can't deal with imperfect scenarios on one end, and then a guy who is not bad but can create imperfect scenarios like Carr, it's going to cause an inconsistent connection, even if Carr is willing to throw those deep balls and Shaheed can win down the field, which he can. Again, I don't want to be too negative, but if there's a couple of big plays they didn't hit that they would have won the game.
Shaheed's like Lockett.
It makes sense. I mean, Carr is not the best quarterback in the league, like the first 2 weeks of the season would suggest.
And even then, it's like, the MVP time. It's like, guys, my thought on the MVP stuff, no disrespect, because like if I was a Panthers fan, or if I was a Saints fan, or like the Panthers were doing that, like I get it. Probably chill on your guy till you get about 6 or 7 games in, because you just don't want to do it to him. And you're probably, if it's like some like out of nowhere, like no way, you're probably doing it to them. Sam Darnold possibly could be a victim of this soon. Regardless, I mean, even this being said, the Saints were up 12-7 with 2 minutes left to go, and of course, I'm getting the popcorn ready because a 2-minute drill, the Eagles need a touchdown to win it. Holy cow! Like that's gonna be awesome. And they hit a nasty mesh on them, like Looney Tunes. The Saints players run into each other, and it's Goddard down the sideline who put up 170 yards in this one, absolutely cooked.
Dallas,
and then the Eagles are able to. Yeah, seriously, I'm sure in that 32 team league that's tight end premium, he must put up like 30 points, bro. He was ridiculous. And that ended up winning them the game. But honestly, like, my feeling about the Saints is that their defense is really good and makes big plays. I think their defense is legit. I think their offense is good. It's better than I thought it was going to be. It is certainly like the game plan is not a mystery against them. And if they're going to win, they're still more of that like ball control and defense team than they are like a crazy Shanahan, like 49ers level team, I guess. Just because I don't think that they have the same guys that the 49ers do. But I don't know. We see some great performances. We see some bad ones. They're probably somewhere in the middle. As far as the Eagles go, I actually think that they could come together and be pretty decent. They keep shooting themselves in the foot, and they're still 2-1, and they could be 3-0 right now. I'm not saying that they won't stop doing that, but their run game is so good. Nobody, like Saquon was ridiculous in this game. Nobody can deal with them right now. And if they just run and run and run, I think that they have it's such an easy button to press compared to like what other teams who are struggling on offense can do. They still move the ball well. And while Hurts had some mistakes, and he's definitely like, I want to say he needs to clean those up, but like he's been making those mistakes for a while. That feels like more of a fixable problem than like just the talent deficit that maybe other teams have in other positions. And we've seen Hurts play great ball. On top of that, like they went up against a Saints team that was red hot, super good, and on their last drive they were down A.J. Brown for the entire game and Devontae Smith for part of this game. And they went down and they called up a great play. Granted, it was kind of a mistake by the Saints, but that's what the Eagles were trying to do, and they nailed it. So I think it's kind of a gritty win. And again, we'll see how it goes. But if you told me by the end of the year that the Eagles had gotten out of their way a little bit and were really strong on the ground and Hurts was protecting the ball and they were playing awesome, I'd believe it, because I think this defense has some upside too. Carter was fantastic. Quinion Mitchell almost had a pick six. Like, it's not perfect, but there's some guys there. And Bond's been showing up, which, I mean, anything from the Eagles linebackers is an improvement over what we expected. So I'm not that low on them. And especially with how the Cowboys have looked, which is rough, these first three games. I'm actually inclined to think that they could be one of the bigger threats in the NFC. I don't have them over the 49ers. I don't have them over the Lions, but they could be pretty competitive. Maybe not the Vikings right now. No disrespect. Can't handle the Vikings.
This is the thing that separates the Eagles from the Cowboys, right? Is the whole trenches thing. The Cowboys can't run the ball, and they can't stop the run. Like, point blank, period. Right? We just saw the Eagles put up 172 yards on the ground. The Cowboys couldn't do that in their sleep. They couldn't do that if they dreamed it, right? That's what I meant by in their sleep. Obviously, they can't do it in their sleep.
It's good.
And then the Cowboys got crushed against this Saints team on the ground. I was talking to Cowboys fans today at flag football practice because half the team is Cowboys fans. And they were all going to go watch the game today, and I was like, the Cowboys are probably going to lose to the Ravens, and the Eagles will probably beat the Saints. We're like, no, but like the Eagles they're not that much better than the Cowboys. And I'm like, yeah, but the Eagles can run the ball and they can stop the run. Like, Matt, you said the Eagles went 5 down a lot of times against this Saints team. Like, the Cowboys can't do that. The Cowboys can't get big. Like, the set that they have on the field at all times is typically dime, and that is their best set because they don't have linebackers that can really fill. They don't have big linebackers, so they go safeties, right? They've got 4 safeties on the field, it feels like, half the time. And it just doesn't work.
The leading rusher for the Cowboys, Jaden Reed would be the leading rusher for the Cowboys. I'll put it that way.
Damn, it's just brutal for Dallas.
Ty Chandler.
I do want to say
the leading rusher for the Cowboys.
Shout out Ty Chandler though, last year preseason legend.
Is Dak Prescott the leading rusher for the Cowboys right now?
Rico Dowdle he has 88 yards.
Okay.
That's about the same as Will Levis. Deshaun Watson's not far off from being the leading rusher for the Cowboys. He's got 85.
I do want to say one more thing before we maybe get into Cowboys-Ravens, if that's what you guys wanted to hit.
Sure.
Trevor Penning.
That penalty, I did see that.
That sucks, dude. And I don't know. I don't how hurt is Slay? Because he was down. Like, he wasn't like, oh, he got up limping. Like, he was down, man. And it was so far after the play. It was so dirty. I mean, it was unbelievable. And like, it's not the first penalty like that he's had. And this one, I can't believe it that it's just like, what, 15 yards and that's it? Like, you basically, like, you're not supposed to do that. I don't know what to say. And the Saints drafted him, like, because they liked that type of stuff. I think that sucks so bad. That makes me so angry. I can't stand it.
It all started when he threw that guy into Ritter. and almost tore Ritter's ACL at the Senior Bowl.
Oh my
do you
God,
remember that?
So,
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Of course you do. Yeah. Yeah, no, that was totally a dirty play. Slay said that he was all good on Twitter after the game.
Good.
So he's not
'Cause that would be
seriously hurt. But he definitely tried to block him into the metal bench.
Yeah, clearly. And it was, I mean, it was to the point where Kamara had gotten up and stood back up after getting knocked out. It was sort of just standing around, walking back to the huddle at that point almost. And Penning is still pushing through the play. And I just don't buy that this one guy can't tell when the play is over is really there's finishing a block and then there's just
if it was anyone
doing
other
that
than
shit.
Penning, well, no, not even any. That was so blatant. But of course, Penning is just trying to.
He's the only. I mean, there's just not many offensive linemen who do that type of stuff. Really, it's just incredibly rare. And there's certainly not anybody with the track record that he has, where it's practically, 4 or 5 times a season. We'll see, man, because so far it's just been ridiculous. And yeah, Slay is cool, but it's one of these times it's going to turn out that somebody he really hurts somebody, on some bullshit like against a cornerback too. Okay, dude, you got 100 pounds on him, congrats. I don't know, I don't like him.
No,
easy guy to not like.
I remember when they asked, he was being interviewed and he said, ask me the thing I like most about playing football. Ask me what it is. And the interviewer is like, what do you like most about playing football? And Penning has this big dramatic pause for 5 seconds. And then he goes, legally assaulting the person across from me. Okay, bro, that's
in that voice too.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. It's come on, yes, kind of.
You can't.
That is your job as the offensive tackle to some extent, but you can't actually assault them. You can't actually throw them into the metal bench 5 yards after the player, throw them into your quarterback. It is so corny. The dirtiness is just not. It's not cool. It just is.
No.
You block your ass off during the play, move people. He's been doing a good job in their scheme, so far this year. With the violence, it's asking a lot of them to do that, but these types of moments are just so dumb. It's lame.
Yeah,
it's you can't be the big tough guy offensive lineman and Reddit at the same time.
Yes,
I need a reporter to call him out on that next time. Where the beat's at, man. But do we want to get into Ravens Cowboys, or do we want to save that for the next episode? We're running a little long here, and I know we want to talk about KC Atlanta.
We can hit Ravens Cowboys quickly.
My main takeaway is everybody's run game is going to look so sick against the Cowboys this year.
Yeah.
We were talking last week about, I'm man, when the Ravens run gap scheme, their guys can't reach where they need to go. They look slow. They look unathletic. Then they play the Cowboys.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It looks awesome. They're just blowing everybody off the ball. They're Falele's getting out and killing people. Lamar.
Yeah, I was I knew it was bad when Falele looked like a great guard. I was dude, it's over.
It was looking awesome. It's a good running game. I think that it's better than it looked the first 2, or it can be better than it looked going forward from the first 2 weeks of the season. But it's how many positive your corners can't tackle, and that's a big deal. A lot of times there's the free hitters in the play. A lot of times they can. You can throw a quick ball out to the flat and they have to make a tackle, and Nelson Aguilar obviously broke one and made a long play. Linebackers get a lot of the attention. They're still bad. The interior of the defensive line, it's still bad. I don't know if Tank Lawrence has I'll have to go back and look, but I don't know if he's playing at the level he used to. And then, you can make Micah Parsons the read man or double team him. He's a little bit small. It's where are the positive players against the run? Are there any of them? Are there any of them on this defense? That's what I'm wondering.
Here's the thing is Micah Parsons' job against a lot of these run plays ends up just being set the edge. Right. And just because of where he has to line up, he's not Myles Garrett big where you can't line him up in the A gap. He's not big enough for that. So, you kind of line him up on this is wide 7, wide 9, and he sets the edge. And he's doing that, but all you have to do is cut up because the defensive tackle is on his ass and then you're getting up to get the linebacker, and he's going to get thrown on his ass. Like, no one's going to come up and make a tackle after Micah Parsons sets the edge. And that's the problem with this run defense. And that's why, like, that's why the Saints were able to just run at him every play. It's like, oh my God, they picked on Micah Parsons. It's like, no, they're just exploiting the fact that everyone around him sucks at tackling and at stopping the run. So yeah, I mean, it's fundamental football. Like, you have to be able to tackle. You have to be able to stop the run, and they can't. They're the worst in the league at it right now.
Mm-hmm. And their pressure rate is only 15th. Another thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Micah's awesome, but it gets to a point where there's maybe just too many flaws in this defense for them to be really good. He has some of the same concerns. They're almost Brownsy, right? You know, sort of built the same way with almost. And this is a team that we were high on because we're like, well, they just have such a high ceiling with their main guys. But as it stands right now, I mean, it feels like they're doing the absolute bare minimum with it. So I don't know. I don't feel great about them. Dak, I feel like it does put him in a tough situation when the run game is so weak. And honestly, like, they just don't have a lot of consistent winners outside of Lamb. I know Ferguson had a strong game, but I wish they had another super strong weapon because it's probably a little bit more to Brandon Cooks than you'd like, right? And he's not the player that he once was. So it's just
needs to be a star if they're going to win the Super Bowl or get to the NFC Championship game or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. I will say, I love Dak so much, dude. I love him, man. He saved my ass in this fantasy game. I was going into, like, nobody was playing good. We couldn't get any touchdowns outside of, like, the Jahmyr Gibbs hook and lateral. I'm like, it's over. I'll be 1-2. I'm going to leave the league. He puts up like 25 points in the fourth quarter in garbage time, bro. Well, it wasn't even really garbage time. Like, the Cowboys were in that game. They almost
came back and won.
Right. But, dude, like, I don't want to hear anybody say shit about Dak ever again, man. He's the GOAT. He's been my fantasy quarterback for 2 years, bro. I love Dak.
I started Jawan Jennings in my Dynasty League because Puka Nacua is hurt.
Dude.
5D.
He's awesome.
5D chess.
He saved my Josh Jacobs got 5 points, James Conner 3, Devontae Adams 6, Greg Dortch 5. Those are Kyle Pitts 8. Those are like all your skill position players right there. Jawan Jennings 41.5. Shout out to him.
Bang.
You know, I feel a little bit bad because I told my coworkers, we have a work fantasy league. I told all my coworkers that I'm ass at fantasy because I historically am horrible at fantasy. So far, I am the highest scorer in this league by a very wide margin, and I'm sitting at 3-0. So
I had a friend text me last night, and he asked, should I start Tyler Johnson or Christian Kirk this week? And I said, bro, delete your team, man. You're not. Don't come ask me dumbass questions like that ever again.
You said delete.
There's no way that you're getting the win this week. Just back it up, hit the waivers.
There's no.
Tyler Johnson had 3 catches, 20 yards. A little PPR, you know, keep you afloat.
Well, how many people were in
little
this
5-pointer.
Could have been a 32 team.
He said that he had 4 people hurt, like ahead of these guys, and okay. I believe it if that's what it's come down to. But all I know is that I watched all of Christian Kirk's targets before I went on my Jaguars rant, and he had dropped 3 of his 7 targets, like, badly. So I wasn't quite feeling good about him going into the matchup against the Bills.
Not looking great for Christian Kirk, I fear.
What I want to hear about is this 49ers-Rams game that you said that you watched. I also saw the quote or the little story that you retweeted. I thought that was super interesting. Yes. This is an amazing win for the Rams.
It was unbelievable to watch, man. I mean, the craziest part is, like, the 49ers were playing so good from the beginning to the end this week. Purdy, I mean, Juwan Jennings caught everything. He was 11 of 12 in his targets. And the one that wasn't a completion was an amazing toe tap sideline. He just didn't quite get 2 feet down. But, like, the effort was unbelievable. It was, if he would have caught that, it would have been the greatest receiver day, probably in NFL history. Purdy was one of your top performers this week in terms of the efficiency numbers, EPA per play.
Yeah.
Jordan Mason was running it super well, and the Rams had nothing. I mean, they had no Kupp, they had no Puka Nacua, obviously, and the 49ers got out to a 14-0 lead, and they never really took their foot off the gas like that much. They missed a kick. They had some big drops, definitely, but the Rams just scratched and they clawed, and like the story I retweeted said, Jordan Rodriguez, probably the best beat reporter in the NFL currently working, Jordan Rodriguez. She retweeted a story, or not I retweeted her story, and the Rams had not played any 12 personnel all year. This week they break it out. They had been working on it in training camp in case it ever needed to happen. Now both the receivers are down. It needs to happen. Even though Higbee is out, they bring out Kobe Parkinson. They bring out, the 12 personnel package, and they use Whittington, the guy out of Texas, the rookie, in like this hybrid tight end role, blocking at the line of scrimmage. It's just Tutu Atwell is your main guy, and they're using him as like your primary receiving threat. They're just working this thing with duct tape and spit, and and Stafford is so good. Like the scheme change on the fly to adjust to the injuries. There's McVay. And then in this game, Stafford is just on the money every time. Under pressure, it's just right on everybody's face mask. The accuracy is just could not be better. He had a big deep shot to Tutu Atwell down the sideline. That was an explosive play. He had another good throw that got interfered with down the sideline. That was a big play. And just somehow they hung around, and Ronnie Bell dropped a huge pass to put the game away for the 49ers at the end. And then the Rams got a huge punt return right off of that to put them in field goal range. And I watched this game. I watched every snap, and I still don't quite know how it happened. Like
it came out of completely nowhere. I'm just like
the 49ers
chill, I'm
were
like,
in
yeah,
control.
Niners got it.
They were in control, like every aspect, and just somehow they lost. They somehow lost.
I mean, it was 24-14 in the fourth quarter with under 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Completely
it was inexplicable. I mean, I expected watching it like, oh, Purdy will mess up at some point, like he'll throw a pick or because I rewatched it after it happened.
Purdy played a phenomenal game.
Yeah, he was amazing.
I thought that was one of the best Purdy performances I had ever seen. Honestly, like there were some plays where kind of looked a little Mahomey. Just a little bit. He had one where he bailed out to the right, and I was like, oh my God, he circled back, bailed to the right, and I was like, oh my God, he's gonna do the Mahomes thing. And no one got open, so he like bailed left and ran. But like I was like, dude, like it was one of his best pocket management days by far. Like he was so good under pressure, I thought.
49ers also first in pressure rate this week.
Wow.
So I don't know how Stafford did it. I don't know how. Stafford and McVay, those guys just they pulled.
They're just winners, man. One way, because I looked at this game and I'm like, okay, statistically, like the 49ers didn't lose in like shit, man. Like they crushed across the board. Like what happened? I think
it was bad.
I'm looking for the number difference. Maybe you could put some of the blame on the special teams. The 49ers miss a field goal late, definitely. Gives away good field position. Rams can go and score quickly. 49ers get a first down in the next series, but, they could have run more time if the Rams had to go farther, and they didn't. And then bad punt coverage allows a big punt return. So the Rams are able to come back super quickly because all of a sudden, you know, the 49ers weren't up points and the Rams were playing with short fields 2 times.
Someone fumbled for the 49ers as well, which lost them the turnover differential. I can't remember when the fumble came, but
I mean, Purdy fumbled
was
once.
Purdy, apparently.
that would have been his one mistake then, because he was good through the air. I mean, him and Juwan Jennings.
I'm
Other
trying to
thing
remember
we got
that
to
fumble.
watch out for officially now.
I don't remember
Ayuk.
that fumble at all.
I can't remember it either. It says he's got a lost fumble though.
That's what I'm like. It's totally gone from my memory, but it happened.
Memory hold that one. Apparently, it happened. But yeah, they did have They did lose the turnover margin, but they had 129 more yards than the Rams, 90 more passing yards, 39 more rushing yards. They had a positive penalty yard margin, positive sack differential. But I think you're right, Matt, that the special teams, it was a big part of it. The missed field goal, the big punt returns, the starting field position in general did lean the Rams' way. Just those little things, and the Rams executed all the little things that they needed to do. And
hey, special teams.
What are you saying about Ayuk?
just he hasn't made any plays this year. Like, he dropped a bunch of passes in this one again and dropped a bunch, like, I still think the rush can get knocked off, but, like, man, dude, come on. Like, Juwan Jennings is out here performing superhero acts. You just need a little bit from somebody else to win this one. And, like, he just didn't make any plays today and dropped a couple opportunities.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Do we want to get into Chiefs-Falcons before we get out?
Yeah, let's hit it real quick.
Sunday Night Football, man. This was an absolute nail-biter down to the very last second. Got to give a lot of credit to Spags, man. The calls that he was making down the stretch, he was sending so much heat. I mean, they were playing so tight on everything. Screens, they were all over it. Swing passes to Bijan, all over it. Pressure on Kirk Cousins. That's what won them the game, right? I mean, I think point blank, because the Falcons looked like they were really eager to come back and win this one. And like you mentioned earlier, Matt, with Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins has looked a lot better since his Week 1 performance against Pittsburgh. But
He still looks a little washed to me, though.
A little. Like, he doesn't look great.
The arm, he
doesn't look great, but like, but yeah, he's moving now, and that he wasn't doing that. You know, he wasn't even moving before, but he's at least moving now.
This has quickly become an expectation thing where, yeah, he looks better. He was going to get benched if he kept playing like he did Week 1. Like, he would have gone like in a Bryce Young style disaster. Like, you literally could not play somebody who was playing like that. He still doesn't move good. He still doesn't create, and a lot of times, like, if he can't buy himself time, he doesn't take sacks, which is good, but he doesn't create positive plays sometimes off of those pressures.
And I feel like more than the mobility thing, like, he's not driving his throws at all. Like, I thought he had a couple opportunities to win this one. Like, there was the throw to London at the end where he was wide open on, and that was, like, behind him,
it, like,
and
died
inside
in the air.
of him.
Yeah.
Like, that one needed to be out in front. And then I thought the Pitts play should have been a penalty, but also that one needed to be up high. And then the throw to London needed to be up as well. Like, there was just in these clutch moments, just too many underthrows. And I thought in the last game that they won against the Eagles as well, it's like the arm talent is looking pretty rough with him. But because of the play action being back, and because I think he's been fine. Like, hasn't had the awful, ugly turnovers that he's had in the first week. But it's still a little bit concerning to me, the way his arm looks. And the Achilles can also affect driving into throws, you know, not just or getting all your cleats in the ground and generating power, not just running around. So that's one thing I want to flag.
Yeah, so the question is, like, how much does he improve as the year goes on? And it's tough to know. As it stands right now, he's not worth the contract that he's been paid, right? At this level, it's not good enough, and he needs to get better. Really, he needs to be much, much closer to what he was with the Vikings last year. So we'll see how it develops. But the Falcons are not like so talented that they can deal with this level of quarterback play and be competitive. And like seriously competitive in terms of like going and like winning playoff games. So it's got to be better from him, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think, the Chiefs are an aggressive defense that does a good job playing downhill, but I still don't think the Falcons like if what would your game plan be if you were going up against Atlanta? Probably still like be pretty downhill, be pretty aggressive, and if they beat you over the top with something else, like fair enough. Like I can live losing that way. It's not as bad as it was where it's like, okay, well, the quarterback can't move at all, but it's still not good. There's still levels to that.
Yeah, the key to being, we saw it from the Chiefs tonight, is they took away the wide zone. They put a lot of people in the box, and then once the snap comes, like, don't be thinking downhill. Like, be thinking, let's spread out, let's be horizontal, let's be square to the line of scrimmage, and not let them stretch us, right? And that's the game plan against the Falcons. And if you can take that away, it does get to be kind of tough sledding for them. But the good news for the Falcons, London is sick. I really am liking what I'm seeing from London these last two weeks. He is so light on his feet. His route against Slay to win last week, unbelievably good for how big he is. I thought tonight he was getting good separation. And like, I think even Pitts is looking okay as well. I thought he had a nice route on that play that should have been PI, and the throw should have been above him, and then that corner route was pretty cool as well. Like, I think that those two are living up to the billing. Like Mooney as well, looking pretty good. Offensive line, obviously now a major concern with the injuries that they suffered tonight. The defense, I think that Bates and Simmons might be
it's awesome, and it's such a big deal. It's such a big deal having those two great safeties. It's definitely like it's something that it's really changed my mind about. Maybe I'm wrong about the Falcons being a good team or winning the NFC South, but I remember back when the Bengals lost Bates, I was like, you got to replace guys. You can't pay everybody, and this is probably one of the more replaceable positions. Having those elite guys, it really does make a difference. There's no position in the NFL that you can't have a game changer at, and Bates is definitely one of those. And Simmons, the stat was like his fourth straight game with an interception against Mahomes. Like, that's pretty sick, man.
That pick was awesome too. To read that out so well, and then he had to get up to make that play. Just everything from a football IQ, reading that, and from an athleticism standpoint, just beautiful.
Yeah, so don't sleep on great safety play. That being said, like, it's the same damn story with the Chiefs, dude. It's the same thing as last year. They are still going to struggle throwing the ball down the field. Hollywood Brown being out sucks. That's a brutal one. And Worthy, as it stands right now, has like not proven himself as like a serious like deep threat route winner. Like he's just not at the moment. He's a really good gadget guy is how it feels right now. And I think there's a number of times where, kind of like Shaheed, there's moments where it's not a perfect situation, but Worthy is just not a guy who's typically going to make a great play when the ball is in the air, right? Mm-hmm. He's super fast. He can win down the field, but a lot of the times, like, it's not Tyreek down there who is so amazing at making a play on the ball. That was a lot of the success between Mahomes and Tyreek was that ability. And I think Worthy can get better. It's only been 3 games, and certainly there's different ways to use him. Like, he's clearly talented and deserves a place in an NFL offense, but you're not looking for him to like find a place in the offense. You're looking for him to change the Chiefs' offense, and as it stands right now, he hasn't, and it's a problem. And I can feel myself wanting to think like, oh, well, the Chiefs dealt with the same thing last year. What happened? They won the Super Bowl. But just because you won the Super Bowl in spite of a problem that you had doesn't mean that it can't cost you this year. And I picked them to win. I'm not sitting here like biting my nails over the 3-0 Chiefs. But the standard is to win another one. And if we're holding them to that standard, it sucks that what they tried to improve doesn't look improved.
Yeah, Rashee Rice is an absolute monster, and he's still the one in this offense, I think, very clearly. but like they tried to hit Worthy on a deep crosser, and Mike Hughes was step for step with him. Mm-hmm. What? In man, like sorry, can't like if you are going to be a first round pick, fastest football player ever at the 40-yard dash, like you have to cook that man. You have to cook him.
Him and Rice were in the same location on a key, crucial down late. Like both of them were running shallow crosses and just in the same spot, and it killed the drive.
Yeah.
And then Kelsey has not been himself, and we'll see how that develops. As he's a guy who maybe plays himself into shape sometimes, but it's hard not to look at it as maybe he's starting to get older here.
What I'm hearing
Taylor
is
Swift
the Bills'
wasn't.
years. It's the Bills' year.
It could very well be. I wouldn't be mad at it, man. I'd love to see it.
Or maybe the Steelers, the current 1 seed in the AFC, with a 98% chance to make the playoffs, according to the NFL.com next gen
Really?
stats.
A 98% chance to make the play. No disrespect at all.
I'm sure even the biggest Steelers fan would be like, okay, there's a
I don't
chance.
think the Chiefs have a 98% chance to make the playoffs, truthfully and honestly.
True, they have a 78% chance to make the playoffs, according to next gen stats.
What?
I don't understand this.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
What is the...
I don't know. I'm just reading off what it says on
I'm just don't
/playoff picture.
I'm just looking at the spreadsheet, please.
I'm just looking at the calculator.
He didn't make the spreadsheet.
Look, the calculator, not me. No.
So, I mean, maybe it's the Steelers' year. They're the 1 seed now, not the Chiefs.
That's
They're
a
the team to
crazy
beat.
stat.
Oh, it's scripted and the machine knows. Okay.
It's scripted in the machine.
It's all good. But that's...
The playoff picture, I'm looking through the whole playoff picture. This is more cursed than I thought. I know this is very early, but 1 seed is the Steelers. The Chiefs are the 2 seed. The Bills are the 3 seed. The Texans are the 4 seed. The Jets are the 5 seed. The Chargers are the 6 seed. That's all normal. The 7 seed is the Raiders.
The Raiders.
Oh, my God.
The 7 seed is the Raiders right now. So
where are the
playoffs were to
Browns
start
right now?
Oh, they're the old 13 seed with a 7% chance
right.
to make the playoffs.
7?
That's what they got them at. Panthers are at 11, Matt.
Yeah.
Let the season play out. Browns are at 13, by the way. So Panthers would beat the Browns if they played today.
I'm thinking.
I don't know if I agree with that.
We'll find out. Don't they play this year? No, they don't. We just play the Bengals.
Their hypothetical matchup is definitely going to the Panthers.
You guys wouldn't want to come to Bank of America.
I'll be there.
Actually, I believe the Bengals do next week. That's going to be scary, scary stuff for Burrow.
Scary stuff.
Maybe.
But yeah, the Chiefs. There's plenty of reason to be concerned about the Chiefs, but there's also plenty of reason to not be concerned about the Chiefs. We just don't want to be in a situation where they lose in the playoffs, and we've been ignoring their flaws all year just because they're
right. It's you can take everything with when I talk about I'm positive about the Panthers on this show, and I'm kind of negative about the Chiefs. It's level of expectation, right? One we're could they win? The most game, could they be the best team ever if everything works out? And the Panthers are could we be the worst team ever if nothing works out? That's the level. I do want to say though, I thought now every time the Chiefs lateral, I think about them being the lateral team, and they had one where there was an interception and they pitched it back as they were getting tackled.
They did
and I thought
with the. They did that. They had a pick 6 last year where they did that. Someone got an interception.
It really, dude. They care about the. I would love to know laterals per game, but they care the most.
If they want to win the Super Bowl, they need to.
They need to lateral
They need to
more.
lateral
This is sounding like a Pablo Escobar video. Should the Chiefs be lateraling more if they?
He called
This is how
Jordan
they
Love a
mitigate their wide
Toyota-thon
receiver
merchant.
issues.
We're not on speaking terms. I don't want to hear that name. I don't want to hear that name on this podcast.
real.
Shout out.
No.
But no, he's not. You got to make a video. You got to respond.
He's always in his car. Maybe he's the Toyota-thon merchant.
The Toyota. Crazy. Yeah. Notice how no one's calling Myles Garrett a Toyota-thon merchant or Nick Chubb.
He's a hypothetical.
Dude, they call him.
I saw a tweet the other day that it was like the guy like writing something down and like fire is coming out of the paper. It said PFF inventing a new stat to prop up Myles Garrett because they made
obvious passing.
So he's a merchant of something.
He's a merchant of being the best edge rusher in the NFL. That's what he's a merchant of. But
he's faster and stronger than everybody else.
Be a merchant of being like the best athlete the world has ever seen.
I can't defend this anymore though. After T.J. Watt got a sack on Joe Alt.
Yeah, now T.J. Watt is the single greatest football talent we've ever seen. And that's how it happened.
You have to prop up T.J. Watt to be
Joe Alt only let up one sack on T.J. Watt. Goat?
Goat? The Chargers play the Browns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so eventually we will see him go against Myles Garrett, and we'll get a true test of who the GOAT is.
If his ankles are fine, hopefully it is. Slater, Herbert, and Alt all left the game for the Chargers today.
That's true. But the Browns and Chargers
Herbert playing, by the way, wild. Him being questionable with an ankle problem and then throwing him out.
Sprain. Something that always keeps people out. Whatever.
But Herbert's a man, you know. He's a real man.
Harbaugh will have a hilarious quip about this that will make me instantly forgive him, I'm sure. I'm sorry, dude. Like, that shit makes me so mad. Like, every single one of those, I hope you know. Maybe that'll make you enjoy them more when you see them. If you're listening to this, just know that every time he's like Moses, I don't even know. I was dying myself. I'm like, shut up.
You see, that one was a banger the first time he said it, and then he said it again, and that's when it got all the hype. I was like, he said this already. He's reusing this one.
It's like Dwayne Wade with the the pronouns line. That's exactly what it is. Harbaugh is always cooking those up. It's just usually that he has like the thought to stop himself after one. But no, I thought Herbert playing in that game was dumb. I hope he's not banged up for too long because the Chargers were quickly becoming like, a team that could be sneaky in the playoffs. That being said, y'all have anything else?
No.
I mean, I hope everyone had a wonderful Sunday of watching football. Hope you all enjoy Monday night. Got a double header. Should be a lot of fun. But until next time when we recap those games and talk about some of the ones we missed today, thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been an absolute blast enjoying Week 3 of the NFL. Until next time, we will catch you on the Flippity Fly.